A sunny high of 89. Don't miss the D-backs 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs starting tonight, 6:40 Chase Field. Get tickets now at dbacks.com. I'm meteorologist John Weatherby. Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Right now 79 degrees. The Dow is down 18 points at 18,268. The S&P down 1 at 2130. The NASDAQ up 6 at 5,097. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Moria.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park, right from the Money Radio studios on 99.3 FM, 1510 AM, and on the World Wide Web at moneyradio1510.com. And we are now approaching our 18th month on the air, and we've done over 70 shows. And for those that are just tuning in, we're a show about how our aging adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And we've been on the air with many guests. We've had financial advisors on. We've had research physicians on. We've had geriatric physicians on. We have had spiritual leaders on the show, and this show is no different. We have some professionals on the show today. They're going to talk about solutions for our aging adult population and our population as a whole. It's hard to believe that it is May 22nd, and it is Memorial Day weekend is almost upon us, and many of you guys are probably on the road. You may have left the office early, getting ready to get the barbecues ready, or you may be making that trip to the North Country up the flag, or maybe up in the White Mountains, or maybe if you're lucky enough, you're heading west to the coast and trying to enjoy the sunshine and the cool weather of California, whether it be LA or San Diego. So wishing everybody who's listening in today a happy and a healthy and, of course, a very safe Memorial Day weekend. So today's show is going to be about insurance. And, you know, this has been a topic of discussion for many years, especially with this present administration out of Washington, D.C., talking about the Affordable Care Act and talking about health care. And, you know, the one thing I want to start the show by is just sharing with you, especially when it comes to employer healthcare costs, because employer healthcare costs have gone up. And this show, while, you know, we really focus in on our aging adult population, really talking about consumers and talking about how to live that healthier, happier life, well, part of that is really through the insurance programs and the insurance that we receive through our employers. And, you know, this message and this show really today is really out to those small businesses that are, as a result of the Affordable Care Act, having to offer healthcare insurance. And let's face it, employer healthcare costs are placing lots more burden, both financially and emotionally, on companies and their employees. You know, many smaller and mid-sized companies are really feeling the threat to their sustainability through offering these health care programs. It doesn't have to be that way. We've seen firsthand that if we change the way we think about health care, change the discussion about it, and change the questions we ask, the problem changes. It's really just another business hurdle we need to get over. And any company out there has the ability to use healthcare as a tool that creates a strategic competitive advantage that could help their company grow. And those words are not just my words, but they're one of the guest that I have here today, and that is Dr. David Berg from Redirect Health. So welcome, Dr. Berg.
Hi, Bob.
Good to have you on, and we've got a couple other guests here. I've got a full studio here. I've got two gentlemen from Crest Insurance. I've got Jason Gard. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the opportunity.
And I've got Joey Snyder.
Hey, Bob. How are you, bud?
I'm good, man. I'm real good.
Good.
Good to have you in here. We got a foursome. We should go out and play some golf. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend, right?
Right.
But we're really here today to talk about health insurance. And, you know, I have a small business, and everyone knows that. And you guys listen to our show here. You know, it's really a challenge. It's a challenge to be able to offer health care today and yet remain competitive. Isn't that right, Dr. Berg?
It is, Bob. And I'm going to start right now changing the narrative because we've talked a lot about healthcare insurance. And healthcare is not healthcare insurance. And I think that's a common mistake that we make is we talk about the insurance piece of it without talking about the healthcare piece of it. Yet none of us would go buy auto insurance and then go buy a car and figure out how we're going to drive it. And none of us would go buy house insurance and then go figure out how we're going to cook in our house and what kind of house we're going to buy.
Right.
Yet all day long we buy healthcare insurance and then we go try to figure out the healthcare afterwards. That's not what Redirect Health is about. We start with the healthcare and then we insure the pieces after that make sense.
It does make sense. And I know a little bit about Redirect Healthcare, and some of our listeners do. It's hard to believe you were on our show 11 months ago, almost to the day, and you really did a great job of educating to us exactly that point. We're not really talking about healthcare. We are talking about healthcare. We're not talking about insurance.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how to fix healthcare insurance. How to make healthcare work? That's a fairly easy one.
Well, let's talk about it. How do we make healthcare work?
Well, the first step is to make that initial separation between the insurance and the healthcare. That's the first step. And then if you look at just the healthcare part of that, further divide it into two buckets. Divide it into the 90% of care that 90% of the people will need 90% of the time. It's a very inexpensive piece of the healthcare. It includes the primary, and then you got the other 10%. The 90% will have the primary care, the physical medicine, the injury care, the rehabilitation, including chiropractic, x-rays, immunizations, labs, generic medications, the basic stuff that we all use every day. And then you got the other 10%, the hospitalization, the specialists, the more expensive pharmacy, the medications. Right? And that's the part that's really expensive.
Oh, it is.
Right, really expensive.
Especially for our aging adult population.
Oh, definitely.
Really expensive.
Yeah. So if you think about healthcare in those two buckets, that 90% is not that expensive. Don't insure it. It's silly to insure that. It's so inexpensive, but doesn't mean you don't make it work better, make it more affordable, make it more convenient. But I don't know that I don't believe insurance is the best thing for that 90%. The other 10%, though, can get out of control, and that's where insurance makes a lot of sense.
You know, it's interesting. You know, we are going to come up on a hard break in a second here, but I think there's a misnomer about the Affordable Care Act. I mean, so what you're saying is that, you know, as a small employer, you don't have to have insurance. You just need to be able to offer solutions, right?
And Jay and Joey can talk to this much better than I can, but there are some parts of the Affordable Care Act that do not need insurance for the employee, and for a big portion of the penalty, the easy to trigger penalty for the employer. And there are other pieces that do need insurance.
Right.
And I'll let Jason and Joey speak to this particulars about that.
When we come back from our hard break, I'm going to redirect our question.
Do you like that? Redirect. I like it.
Redirect Health. I'm going to redirect it over to Jason and Joey and really talk about how we can develop these solutions for these companies. Because it is a challenge for these small companies to comply with those rules that have been put forth as part of the Affordable Care Act. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I am Bob Roth, and I've got three guests talking about insurance today. We'll be right back.
Here at Phil's Gang, we understand the ghosts of 2008 and 2009 hang over all investors. In a recent banking analyst report, studies show the reason people are not investing in the stock market is a greater need for financial education. At Phil's Gang, we are your #1 provider of financial investing education techniques. For over a decade, Phil Grandy has been coaching, guiding, and helping people build a successful trading plan for any time frame, from current income to retirement security.
I think what you're doing is extremely important. People don't realize this, but financial education is in many respects the most important education you can get, and that's what they're getting from your show.
Build your investment confidence with Phil's Gang today, with daily webinars, alerts, and educational videos. And all material is archived for your convenience. Put the investment ghosts in the past and start investing with Phil Grandy and Phil's Gang today. For more information, simply go to philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264.
Attention boomers and retirees. Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200, to learn about an asset allocation strategy that encompasses up to 50 dividend-paying stocks, up to 10 exchange-traded funds in different sectors of our market, up to 12 high-yield corporate bonds, and the principal-protected low-cost new generation annuity to ensure a potentially secure retirement. 800-957-5604 and dial extension 200 to set up your complimentary strategy session with Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions, or go online at www.theripa.com. That's 800-957-5604, extension 200. Call today. Please read prospectus for risks, fees, and charges. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
At Kubota, value means getting more than you expected for less than you thought. See your Kubota dealer today for incredible finance offers and instant cash rebates. That's value. That's Kubota.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you're just tuning in, I've got 3 guests here in the studio. I've got Dr. David Berg from Redirect Health, and I've got Jason Gard and Joey Snyder from Crest Insurance. And if you missed the first segment that we just had, which was excellent, I might say, you can catch it up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Just click on the radio show button, and you'll be able to listen to that first segment, about 70 others, and you'll catch these next 3. So just getting back to how I broke, I talked about I got 3 insurance guys. It's not really insurance that we were talking about, Dr. Berg. We're talking about only a small piece of that being insurance, and really leveraging Redirect Health, and as I said, a solution to really help that 90% factor. And before we took the break, we talked about lobbing it over to the Crest Insurance guys and Jason Gard to really talk a little bit more about the insurance component. So, Jason.
Well, I think it's interesting that, Dave talked about the 90% of the cost, and one of the trends that we've seen, at least in my 18 years in the industry, is that as health plans have gone throughout history, a very small part of the population of a group health plan is actually driving the claims. So we like to throw out the number of 10%. If you have 100 employees, really 10 of those employees are driving the cost of your health plan. You get renewal increases every year based largely on that small population. And to Dave's point, Dave and I have talked about this a lot. Why are we continuing to build health plans around that small part of the population? Why aren't we focusing on the larger population, the 90 employees, offering them the access to a Redirect product where there is literally zero out-of-cost pocket to them, offering them the concierge services that Redirect Health offers, and then for that 10%, as Dave just said, you know what, we offer a higher level of insurance. One of the most important things, Bob, that we have to remember, and Dave, I'm going to use the word compliant, our health plans still need to be compliant. So we need to make sure that we're building compliant health plans effective January 1, 2016 for all groups with 50 employees or more. There are laws that they have to follow. Our goal and my goal as a producer at Crest really are three different legs to that stool. Number one, I want to make sure all my employer groups are compliant. That's number one concern for me and my employer groups. Number two, I want to make sure I'm offering financial stability not just to my employer groups but to their employees. Employers offer health insurance and benefits mostly because a lot of our employers out there are altruistic by nature. And by making sure that we're taking care of the employees as well as the employer, it solves both of those problems. The third piece, and Dave has kind of said this before, my job is to be an advocate for my clients, and that means my employer groups and my employees. So that's how I see my job in healthcare.
Well, and you're doing a wonderful job. And I got to tell you, I mean, and I've said it here on the show, there isn't really a bigger oxymoron out there than the word healthcare. Because it really should be called sick care. Because we have grown accustomed to healthcare being sick care, and we're not rewarding people for living a healthier, happier life. And, we should be rewarding those individuals that are living healthy lifestyles by affording them lower premiums.
I agree.
And lower costs.
I'll take that a step further. I'm guilty of this. I look around the booth here. I might be the only one who's guilty of this because I'm a little bigger than I was in college and probably not the healthiest guy in the world. But, I still I have a great health insurance plan through my company, and I still get complacent. I don't go to the doctor. I don't take care of myself the way I should. I'm a big advocate of bringing that visit to the client, whether it's in a group setting and we do a open health fair and we're bringing in preventive care such as blood draws or cancer screenings. I think that's really the next wave of our healthcare industry, because that way, bringing that preventive visit to the client, it takes out that excuse of, I'm too busy, I don't have time.
Right, and employers want that.
They do.
I mean, as you talked about being altruistic, they want to help their employees be better, one, productive in their jobs and what they do. But in order to do that is to live a healthier life. And by rewarding them with that and helping them be that is going to help them achieve that.
True. And one of the things that the ACA has allowed us to do is, the word discriminate's not the right term, but it's allowing us to have different contribution levels for different levels of employees. If they're maintaining those healthy lifestyles, they're going to pay less for their health insurance. If they're not maintaining those healthy lifestyles or not doing their wellness checkups, they're going to pay more. That's something that we can do now with
And the benchmarks are pretty easy. I mean, we know what the measurements are.
Very simple.
Whether it be A1C, cholesterol, whether it be blood pressure, you name it. I mean,
right.
Unfortunately, there are some people that are predisposed to bad genetics.
That's true.
And we can't solve that. But I will tell you, a number of our people that live in our communities, it's all lifestyle.
It is.
It's unbelievable. I mean, we've supersized everything. And seriously, when I grew up, there was no such a thing as a supersize. But we see these sodas. We see these French fries. I mean, fast food. And I've had Dr. David Bailey in here. And he has said before, he's like, you should never, ever, ever step foot in a fast food restaurant. And it's funny because
Does that mean you can go through the drive-thru?
Well, you say that because one of my members in my company said, I'm going to Taco Bell. Would you like something? And I said, didn't you hear my show with Dr. Bailey? And she said, what was that? And I told her, and she says, well, I'm not walking in. I'm going through the drive-thru.
Hey, Bob, can I just give a different perspective on that point?
Sure.
And I know it's a common thing to think and say that if people would just be more responsible and take accountability, healthcare costs would go down. I'm just here to tell you that's not what I'm seeing in the doctor's office. I know it's popular to say,
sure
and it works for most of us, but there are lots of people where it's just not easy. It's impossible for them to do that. Let me give an example. If English is your second language and you're making $10 an hour, and you've got 3 children, and you've got 1 car between you and your spouse, and between the 2 of you, you've got 3 or 4 jobs, and you get a new diagnosis for your 4-year-old daughter, she's got type 1 diabetes. You've got to figure out not only how to afford it, but how to understand the disease, how to get the glucose strips delivered to your house, never run out, how to deal with the emotional deal of being a mom or a dad sticking your kid who's 4 years old and doesn't understand it, and not running out of those glucose strips, and then being able to interpret the glucose reading,
right.
And then to be able to make sure you have insulin on supply, make sure it's refrigerated, and make sure you have that at school and at grandma's house and the friend's house. And it's overwhelming. It's impossible. We've had to put so many resources on these people to help them, and the system doesn't pay for it. So, here's the thing. Those are the people who are driving the cost. If you want to move the needle as far as the cost impact of healthcare, you've got to take care of those people. It's not that I'm not finding the people who have choices, the overweight people who are overweight or cholesterol's high or have high blood pressure, they're not driving the cost. It's the people who have illnesses like asthma or diabetes or cancer, where the system is so complicated and so fragmented, it is impossible for them. It's not impossible for any one of us sitting around this table right now because we've got resources, we got people. We got a Rolodex of people we can call to help us. I saw a stat from, I think it was 2011, I'll make some things up here, but I think it showed that 50% or 48% of Americans could not raise $2,000 by any means within 30 days. Right? So I challenge the assumption that it's even close to being fair to hold them accountable for something that's impossible to them.
I appreciate the reality check, and I will go back to you, Dr. Berg, and say, what is the solution then? How do we resolve this? Does Redirect have a solution for us to be able to help those people with type 1 diabetes and some of these other genetic diseases that they've been born to?
Definitely. So diabetes, asthma, they've got care plans, they've got standards of care. The problem is it's so hard to get people into the system so they can actually do it. And it could be all kinds of obstacles. It could be they don't have the money. They don't have the belief they have the money. They don't understand the money. They don't understand the words. They don't understand the disease, transportation issues. Maybe it's language issues. Maybe it's family support issues, right? Maybe they don't have these things. These are the types of things that Redirect Health solves. It doesn't even solve it. It relieves them.
Right.
I know one example where we had a mom in that exact example I gave you, and where her husband needed the car, and she didn't have a way to get her child, I think 4-year-old child, to see us. And our care logistics people, they couldn't solve all her problems. There's too many of them. But what they could do is they could relieve a couple of them. It was a matter of going to Google, pulling up a Spanish bus schedule, drawing out the line, drawing the connection points. Here's what it's going to cost, and just relieving the transportation, the language issue, and just caring. That was enough to get that mother's motivation into play to take care of her daughter. And it didn't take a lot, but we had to do it. Before we did that, it was impossible for her.
Well, and the solution, the other one that you mentioned, was support groups. And I got to tell you, they have to be incredibly beneficial to people.
Or the support I'm talking about could be the family. So if I need the car to go to work, and I'm worried about paying the bills, and my wife comes to me and says, I need the car for a doctor's appointment, she doesn't have all the support she needs at home to make it happen. Right? So part of it is because I don't understand the importance and how to prioritize it.
Right,
she doesn't have support in her life to make sure she can take care of her daughter. Everyone around this table, we don't have that issue.
Right.
To the same degree.
I appreciate the reality check. Dr. Berg, we got to take a break. We're up against a hard break. You're listening to Health Futures. We're talking about employer health care costs, how to keep them down. We will be right back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Federal marshals last night tracked down fugitive suspect Darren Witt, who is being charged today with murdering a wealthy family in Washington, D.C. Correspondent Tom Foreman reports 5 people were arrested with Witt.
We don't know the details of why he was with them. We don't know the details of who all they are. We do know, though, that at the moment they're not being charged.
But there are reports this hour that more than one person is responsible for the murders. Well, the first batch of emails from Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of State have been released. Correspondent Chris Freites reports Democrats and Republicans have different takes on how this affects the investigation into what happened at the U.S. diplomatic post in Benghazi.
Republicans say it means we have lots more questions. Democrats say, this puts an end to any crazy conspiracy theories Republicans have.
The FBI has arrested 2 Southern California men on suspicion of conspiring to support terrorism. Right now, the Dow is down 17 points. NASDAQ is up 9. I'm Evan Haining.
Hello?
Hi, is this Amy?
Speaking.
This is Steve from LifeLock, calling about your response to the alert we sent for a credit application at a store in Portland.
Yes? That wasn't me. I'm in Tampa.
I understand. I'm going to work with you to help you resolve this, okay?
Thanks, Steve. I feel better already.
LifeLock detects threats to your finances, alerts you to danger, and helps restore your identity if anything's found. And with LifeLock Ultimate Plus, you get protection for your bank accounts, investments, even the equity in your home. Look, no one can prevent all identity theft or monitor transactions at every business, but LifeLock Ultimate Plus provides comprehensive identity theft protection. Visit LifeLock.com now and enter promo code AWARE or call and mention AWARE to save 10% on your LifeLock Ultimate Plus membership. Call 800-305-2203. 800-305-2203. 800-305-2203.
When people want to talk about money, they get their talking points right where you are now. Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Hi, Bam Ransom here, along with Johnny Dean and Rick the Professor Plum. We know how important financial planning and wealth education can be, so we're focusing the show on the investment strategy designed for the needs you have today and the goals you have for the future. Join us for Bucket Strategy Investing. Bucket Strategy Investing, answering questions about your most important financial challenges, your 401ks, IRAs, Social Security, and more. Join us every day for Bucket Strategy Investing.
Hi, I'm Nick Grovich, host of Good as Gold, heard every Thursday at 1 p.m. on Money Radio. I have over 35 years of experience as a professional coin and bullion dealer, as well as a published author of 2 books that expose the inside workings of the rare coin market. Each week, I'm going to share with you my tips on how to safely invest in precious metals and what to do if you're one of the 90% that were sold overpriced rare coins. Tune in every Thursday at 1 p.m. as I host Good as Gold, exclusively on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Are you in the market to sell your home and looking to get top dollar? How about a guarantee to sell your home in 59 days or less? Listen to Brian Yelder of HomeSmart as he joins Ken Morgan on Business for Breakfast Tuesdays at 7:24 a.m. for buyers and sellers. Brian will discuss his preparation, marketing, and strategy tips that help turn casual lookers into serious buyers. So tune in for buyers and sellers this and every Tuesday morning at 7:24 right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ray Lucia, and I talk about your money, your business, and your life right here on the radio. So if you happen to have any money-type questions, well, worry not. That's because I'm here to provide you with the most sound financial advice in the country. So tune in to the Ray Lucia Show every weekday, 10 to 11 a.m., right here on Money Radio 1510 a.m. and 99.3 FM.
Tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Precious Timber with Alex Wilson on Money Radio 1510 a.m. and 99.3 FM. At Kubota, value means getting more than you expected for less than you thought. See your Kubota dealer today for incredible finance offers and instant cash rebates. That's value. That's Kubota.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And we're about to begin our third segment, and I've got Dr. David Berg from Redirect Health, and I've got Jason Gard and Joey Snyder from Crest Insurance in the house. And we left off, we were talking about, how the word healthcare is kind of an oxymoron, and it's more of a sick care. And, Dr. Berg, you really gave us a dose of reality because, we're sitting here talking about our own healthcare. And I think the description you gave us, which was perfect for our listening audience, isn't so much for the employer that's listening in about their worker. It's more about the spouse. Because when we do health plans, we're doing it not just for the individual, we're doing it for the family, right?
That's true. And if you want to move that cost needle, you have to deal with the diabetes and the asthma and the other issues that are really big for us as narcotic use due to pain or addiction. Anxiety, depression, mental illness, those are the big ones.
And we got to get a handle on those.
Yeah, if you get a handle on those, and here's the thing that employers don't always get, those people don't work for you.
That's right.
They're at home. But your best employee has to be your best employee because they need that job. They need that health care or that insurance to take care of those folks at home. So employers lose sight of that. And the wellness programs we can do to get people fit, they're awesome. But they're not going to change the dollar.
Right.
They're not going to do that. If you can take care of that person at home who's sick and make it easier for them to stay healthy and keep them out of the hospital, that is the secret. You got to keep them at home in the primary care office, the chiropractor's office, just keep them out of the hospital. There is so much money left over to take care of the other 90% of the people. That's where healthcare needs to get funded, is by not having those services done in a hospital. Have double the services outside the hospital.
Right.
Don't have any of them in the hospital if you don't have to.
And as you described early on, we had the 90% bucket and the 10% bucket. And what you're saying is if we can get a handle on that 10% bucket, there's going to be enough savings to take care of everything else.
Plenty. I mean, I don't spend any more. I spend less money today than I spent in 2008.
Wow.
For my employees.
Can I interject really quick? One of the strategies that we've incorporated with self-funding groups, that's kind of my niche. We can go into that a little bit later. But when we self-fund a group, claims liability is the employer's liability. And what we've done is we've excluded spousal coverage. For that exact reason is because you don't really know who at home, what their conditions are. So the law says is that we don't have to offer spousal coverage any longer. You have to offer coverage to dependent children to the age of 26, but by removing that spouse and telling them that they can go to the exchange or they can get an individual plan, it can really affect that health care spending for the group itself.
It's another solution.
Yeah.
It's a great solution. So our listening audience has been hearing you guys talk for the last half an hour or so, and I want to just take an opportunity for them to really understand who I have in the house. Because, it's not just Joey Jason and Dr. David Berg. I mean, you guys work for entities. You guys have some experience. So I'm going to lob it over to Joey. We haven't heard a little bit from Joey, but tell us a little bit about Crest Insurance. Tell us a little bit about Joey Snyder and how you got into this business.
Well, I guess we'll start with how I got into this business. I was a professional golfer on many different tours, including the PGA Tour, where I retired last year. And I kind of wanted to figure out a way to what's my future going to look like. And the insurance world has so many different ways to go about it. I just really thought I could help people in their businesses that they grow moving forward. And so when you ask us about Crest and why I chose Crest,
yes, absolutely. There are a lot of options out there.
There are, and Jason actually talked about it earlier. You can tell him what you were saying earlier about with Cody and how he empowers us.
Well, we're in a very unique situation. Crest is about ready to celebrate our 5th anniversary, or birthday, if you will, June 11th down in Tucson.
I was invited to the party, so
yes,
thank you.
You're coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Cody Ritchie, our president and majority owner, he does a phenomenal job of empowering all employees. And when I say all employees, I mean the people answering the phone to the account managers and the producers. And we really feel as if we have ownership in our own company. We feel that we can make a difference, and Cody provides that level of empowerment for all of us. That's why I chose Crest. I was on the vendor side for 16 years, and couple of years ago decided that I felt I could do more good for employer groups and employees on this side as a consultant, really trying to work through the healthcare maze. And sitting down with several firms, when I sat down with Cody, he gave me the mission, and he said, take ownership, Jay, of your opportunity. I bought in.
Awesome.
It's a special place to work. And, you know, if I can expound on that a little bit, Crest is the third largest insurance agency here in Arizona in that short period of time.
After 5 years, you guys are the third largest?
Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and Cody's been the driving force behind it. He's a phenomenal guy, and that's why I chose to come to work here. It's a special place to work. I could have chosen a lot of different ones after playing golf for a living, but after my injury, and it was kind of one of those deals where it fit perfectly. And, you know, we have so many different departments, including trucking, manufacturing, apartments, hotels, construction, aviation, personal insurance, employee benefits, and group health, with one of our largest divisions being healthcare. You know, we insure all kinds of healthcare providers.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and just spending some time with you guys, and I've had a chance to get to know you over the last couple of months, and actually I've had a chance to tee it up with both of you guys. And Joey, while you're a former PGA pro, you know, I was expecting you to be good, but this self-deprecating guy over here who throws himself under the bus, he ain't too shabby. He can hit the ball pretty nice.
I can't keep it up with him, Pards.
I know, isn't it amazing? It really is. But really, in talking to you guys, I mean, it's not like taking a square peg and pushing it down a round hole. I mean, you come up with solutions that fit the needs of the employer. And Jason, you and I got a chance to talk about it last week when we were together, and I think that's really impressive, because a lot of times you have people out there in the insurance business aren't really listening to their employer's needs. And I commend you for that, and I think that's what's really enabled Crest to bring people like yourself and Joey aboard to be able to satisfy employers' needs.
I would agree. Thank you for that. And I agree, because, you know, we do have a very high level of the ability to do whatever we want to do, create what makes sense for our clients. And our number one priority, if you talk to our groups, they'll tell you the customer service is through the roof, because we truly do care, and we're not just order takers. We're out there looking for solutions for every group, because every group is different.
And you know what? In that vein, that's why this gentleman is here in the house.
Absolutely.
And I met Dr. David Berg a couple years ago, but had him on the show almost a year ago, and he is part of that solution. So, you know, Dr. Berg, can you explain a little bit about how Redirect Health works with an insurance company, because you're not an insurance company?
Definitely. And hey, what I will say is I've learned a lot about the brokerage community, and I have learned that every broker is not like every broker. And many brokers are really into account management, how to keep that account, how to renew them next year, how to talk their way through that 15% increase, that 5% increase, that 30% increase, right? How to do that, how to account management, but they're going to get a raise next year.
Right.
There are other brokers, though, that are out there looking for solutions for their employers. And it's almost like they're two different industries in my mind, as naive as I am about that industry. To me, it looks like two different industries. And what I really love about Crest Insurance and Jason, and several others around the valley too, is there really is a heartfelt desire to help employers get a better answer so they can grow their business.
And boy, oh boy, we're looking for answers, because the landscape is changing.
Mm-hmm. And I would say to every employer, demand that of your brokers. Just demand it. And they will acquiesce. They'll fight it a little bit, but they'll acquiesce. How do I know that? Because that's what I found, right? I might have to, I'm probably on my fourth broker, but I've been with the same one now for about 8 years now, right? But I just couldn't get that from the first few, and I didn't know that I had the option to demand that somebody would help me with my healthcare solution.
You know, for our listening audience, and I'm bringing to you guys, you know, solutions, if you would, for the employer healthcare problem that is out there. If you need to, or you desire to contact Crest Insurance, you know, please reach out to them. You can call Jason at 480-689-5343, or you can find these guys at Crest, CRESTINS.com. And for Dr. Berg, you can find Dr. Berg at 623-521-9406 or at redirecthealth.com. And collaboratively, these guys can either independently or collaboratively come up with solutions for your employer health group that you have so that you can, one, comply with the Affordable Care Act, and two, as you mentioned before, Dr. Berg, take care of your people, take care of your employees, make them healthy, make sure that they're there on time and are productive in what they do. We're coming up on another hard break. It's hard to believe. It's Friday of Memorial Day weekend. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I got Redirect Health and I got Crest Insurance in the studio. We'll be right back.
Right after Business for Breakfast, right after the news on Money Radio, tune in Mastering Money with wealth manager Steve Jurich and the doctors Sinclair Know. Learn about cutting-edge retirement investment strategies, Social Security optimizing, and RMD strategies. Guests on Mastering Money have included Steve Forbes, Larry Kudlow, and the one and only John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard. Join the A-Team, Steve and Sinclair, mornings Monday through Friday at 8. And now, download the Mastering Money app for your Apple, Android, and Windows devices. Oil. We produce it, we use it, we need it. Now you want to know how to invest in it. Join Brandon Cox, CEO of Pipeline Oil and Gas, every Monday morning from 9 to 10 as he drills down the oil and gas industry. Tune in to learn what Pipeline does that's different and things to look out for when investing in energy. Education is key when it comes to oil and gas, so don't miss Crude Awakenings with Brandon Cox, right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Volatility is coming back into the market. After a few generally peaceful up years in the market, 2015 has already had a number of sharp up and down moves, and these are likely to continue. If you're prepared for it, volatility is opportunity. If you're not, it can quickly wipe out years of gains in your portfolio. Learn how to get on the professional side of the trade, the right side of the trade, regardless of volatility. Check out Online Trading Academy's The Right Side of the Trade, Thursday at noon on Money Radio 1510.
Laura Bramnick is a real estate agent and a real estate attorney. Laura Bramnick is in a unique position to create opportunities for her commercial real estate clients with commercial property sales or purchases, lease negotiations, landlord-tenant relations, creative financing options, and more. Visit TalkRealEstateAZ.com or call 480-624-2705. That's 480-624-2705. To talk with Laura, call 480-624-2705.
Now through May 31st at the Home Depot, get 4 bags of Scott's Earth Grow colored mulch for just $10. Let's do this. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're in our 4th segment. If you missed the first 3, you can catch them right up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. And you can hear the first 3 segments of our show today. And today I have 3 individuals in the house. I've got Crest Insurance, I've got Jason Gard and Joey Snyder, and I've got Dr. David Berg from Redirect Health. And we're talking about employer health care costs and how we can get them under control. And at the break, we were talking, Dr. Berg and I were talking about the Affordable Care Act. And, you know, it's one of these things that we knew about this in 09 and 10, and, you know, when it finally came to be, this was going to be this bear that was going to be so expensive. It was going to bring down companies. And, you know, it was very contentious on the Hill in Washington, you know, with the Republicans and Democrats going at it. But, you know, Dr. Berg, you shared with me it's not as expensive as it was portrayed to be in the media. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Sure. I had trouble with healthcare in 2002 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 before the Affordable Care Act was even being talked about, really.
It kept going up and up.
Yeah, it was way too expensive. So I had to save my company, tear it down and start all over again. And what I built for myself, for my company, for my employees and their families, just so happened that it was way more than what the Affordable Care Act ever asked me to do. And but it really started with coming to the realization that there's nothing to fix in the healthcare system. It's working really well. And that was an assumption that took me a while to get there. But it's not working well for me.
Right.
Right, or my employees. It's working really well for the publicly traded companies who have, quite frankly, they've tripled in stock value in the last 4 or 5 years since the Affordable Care Act came out. It's working great for them. But when something's working perfectly, you don't try to fix it. And that's what I didn't try to fix healthcare. I built my own. And I built it for myself, and it worked really, really well. And I started by asking myself what I wanted. I wanted great. That first 90% needed to work very efficiently, very affordably, and be very convenient for my people. And then I needed to fund it by getting the other 10% half the cost. And that's how I funded it. And then I'd get some insurance to make, just in case that 10% ever got too expensive. And by the way, my insurance companies have not paid one dime since 2007. Because it's never happened. But I still have the insurance.
It's been there for insurance purposes.
Exactly, but it's never paid one dime. So I built this for myself, and in 2008, when the recession was happening, a lot of my friends who were in business were struggling, and healthcare was a part of it. And so I just started helping friends. And it's much easier to help. It was very easy to help friends lower their healthcare costs. And then my partner, Paul Johnson, used to be mayor of Phoenix.
Right.
And very influential and known in Phoenix. He challenged me. He said, wow, he's chairman of the board of my company. And he said, this is working so well for Arrowhead Health Centers and for everybody you've helped. We need to package this and create a company, and we called it Redirect Health, to help other people do the same thing. And if we start with healthcare first and then only insure the pieces that we're afraid of happening, and we hope they never happen, like life insurance. Right? Bob, you have life insurance, I suspect.
I do.
You didn't use it last year, did you?
No.
How do you feel about that?
I'm feeling alive.
Yeah, you like it? So I am thrilled that my healthcare insurance company has not paid one dime since 2007. I'm thrilled with it. Because I have real insurance. Anybody who says, I didn't use my insurance last year, I'm mad, they don't really have insurance. It's prepayment. And prepayment always gets more expensive when people start thinking that way. So by starting with the healthcare is very inexpensive. Matter of fact, Redirect Health for $86 a month and $249 for a family.
That's it?
That's it for that 90% of care.
$86 a month?
That's all that 90% of care costs.
$249 for a family? I won't even tell you what it costs for my family.
Now, remember there's not insurance for that other 10%. You still got to pay for the other 10%.
Right.
So most people, if they can afford it, will buy some insurance to cover the bulk of the cost.
We're talking kind of catastrophic insurance, right? We're not talking about, buying an elaborate PPO plan.
And that's what we find. If people know that 90% is covered, and for that $86, they don't pay any copays, no premiums. We just strip the waste and administration out of the system, and we just delivered health care.
Well, you just, for our listeners out there, you just gave them a wake-up call. $86 for a premium payment, or just a payment to have health insurance? Not health insurance, but to have health covered.
And what that'll do is it'll make any health care insurance that they have, any arrangement, even if they have none, whether it's high deductible, a low deductible, self-insurance, fully funded, it'll make it work better and more usable, more affordable to use it. A lot of people have insurance, but they can't afford the deductibles or the copays. There's no copays with this, so it makes it affordable. And part of our job is to make sure you never use that other 10%, or you don't use the insurance. And we find a lot of people start out with a very low deductible because they're afraid. However, they soon learn that when we're saving the money, we're saving their insurance company's money. So if they move their deductible up, they get the savings directly. And there's so many people that spend $1 to save for 10 cents of risk. And people just have trouble understanding the risk. So there's fear that is very profitable. And there's many times where we have 10, 15, 25 cents worth of risk conceptually, but we spend $1 to get rid of it, which really doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes no sense at all.
But we do it all the time.
So the insurance component, if the 10%, what would that cost? It varies, right?
Yeah,
it depends.
It depends on.
Depends what your deductible is.
Exactly.
But it's not like the $1,800 it is for my family insurance on a monthly basis.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I would never pay $1,800 a month for a family for health insurance.
There you go.
Never.
Jason, you're nodding your head. What do you got to say about that?
I wouldn't pay $1,800 for family insurance either, Bob.
There you go. there you go.
Now how do you know about Redirect Health?
Well, I think one of the points, too, that we want to get across are the ACA penalties. And there's different penalties. There's 2 for employers and there's 1 for the individual. What we saw this year with April 15th coming and going, a lot of people filed their taxes, didn't have insurance, thought that the penalty was going to be $95. Well, the penalty read $95 or 1% of income, whichever is greater. So I had friends.
See, I thought it was $95 too. I have insurance though. 1%.
Yeah. So I have friends that are in the hospitality industry. They went in. They made $50,000.
It's going to 2.5% next year.
Next year it goes to 2.5%. But so they actually goes to 2. But they got a $500 fine. As soon as they leave their CPA, they call me. What? $95? It's $500. No, it's the greater up. Next year it's $300 for 2015. It's $325 for an adult, or 2% of your income, whichever is greater. 2016, it goes to $695 an adult, or 2.5%. So it's going to continue to go up. After 2016, it'll increase with inflation. So
here's a question. Dr. Berg has this Redirect Health solution. You have talked about self-funding solutions. Both of them meet the requirements for the ACA.
Yes, they do.
They go together very well.
Yep.
Yes, and they go together very well, and it certainly beats the $1,800 per family.
Yeah, so what Jason's company does is finds the insurance at the appropriate levels to insure the portion of the other 10% in case it happens. Now, our job for the $86 is to make sure it never happens.
Right.
So
it's to do all that preventative stuff up front, taking care of your employees, like you said.
Especially the sick people who can't do it themselves.
Right.
It's impossible for them to do it themselves.
And especially when you're talking about spouses, like you were talking about.
And children, too.
And helping them out. It's hard to believe we're almost finished our 4th segment, and I can't thank you enough to talk about a very complicated subject. Because I will tell you, as an employer, you almost want to put your head in the ground because it is very complex and very expensive. But, we are coming up on a break, and it is Memorial Day, and it's hard to believe it's 75 degrees outside on May the 22nd in Scottsdale, Arizona. I can't remember a day it's been like that. What a great place to live. I think today's high is supposed to be 79. What are you guys doing over the weekend? What are you doing, Dr. Berg?
Oh, you don't want to hear it. I'm writing a part of my book for Redirect Health, the manual for Redirect Health.
Well,
how exciting is that?
That sounds like fun. How about you, Jason?
We had a graduation last night. My daughter Kayla from Mesa High School. So we've got family, friends in town, and we will be celebrating her high school graduation.
And how about you, Joey?
Quick and easy. Taking my girls up with my wife up to Flagstaff to enjoy some cool weather, even though we have unbelievable weather here in May.
And I have a daughter who just celebrated her 18th birthday. Happy birthday, Jessica Roth. And she graduates next week, and we're having a graduation party this weekend. And we're supposed to have incredible weather. And I will tell you, it's NCAA Lacrosse Championship weekend. We got Maryland playing Johns Hopkins tomorrow, and we've got Notre Dame and Denver. And we got the championship on Monday. Thank you guys for being here. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Make it a great day and have a great weekend.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Hi, I'm Bob Roth, Managing Partner of Cypress Home Care Solutions and host of the new and exciting show, Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. Join me every Friday at noon as I will discuss important healthcare topics like health insurance plans, nutrition, and senior living options, and much more. Tune in this Friday at noon for Health Futures with me, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to medical and healthcare concerns of our aging adult population. Health Futures, right here on Money Radio 1510 AM and 99.3 FM.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM.
Is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. Sometimes being ripped off goes beyond just being bad. Sometimes it gets outrageous. Avoid it by sticking around. The Clark Howard Show coming up right after the news. Looking at the market now, the Dow is down 44 points. The S&P is down 5 now, and the NASDAQ is down 1.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin now.